الحمد لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Deen love viewers, welcome again. We have an auspicious guest with us, and alhamdulillah, it's one of those surprises that we have for you as a platform. And we have an up and coming Imam Tom Fikini. And Imam Tom Fikini originally is from New Jersey. Alhamdulillah, he has family here. And also, he is a graduate of Medina University. And so, Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing, Imam?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu feekum. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a wonderful opportunity always to be back in the Twin Cities, meet the brothers, mashallah. Always impressive, all the different new things that you have going on every single time I come through.
Alhamdulillah. So as you know, this is the only da'wah platform in terms of podcasting we have in Minnesota.
Allahu Akbar.
And so we take that job seriously. And so it's an honor to have you with us. And so today we're going to discuss a couple of things. First, I want you to give us like a quick and a brief introduction of your maybe journey to Islam and your journey of being a talib al-ilm.
Okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu rasulillah. باختصار شديد, okay, to go through it really quick.
Yeah.
I was born in New Jersey, outside of Philly. When I went away to college, I converted to Islam in my senior year. I went to Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York. Fast forward 5 years later, I got accepted to study in the Islamic University of Medina. I started teaching myself Arabic before then. I went and completed the Mahad program and then went on to Kulliyat Sharia, in addition to stuff that you do outside of the Kulliyat program. Basically had to leave during COVID. Got there 2015. I was there until 2020. I graduated with a BA in 2020.
MashaAllah.
Had a hope to do more, but Qadar Allah ma sha fa'al. Allah willed otherwise for me. Came back, had some relationships with some masajid. I landed in Utica, New York, upstate New York, near Syracuse.
Yeah.
Started as a full-time Imam there. Just completed 3 years up there. Now I'm sort of, back at let's say downsized my role to resident scholar. I'm currently research director for the Department of Islamic Society Yaqeen Institute. I also teach at Legacy Islamic Online High School, tafsir and Islamic history, and I got a bunch of side projects too. So,
MashaAllah. So you have a very, very interesting and decorated, alhamdulillah, what do they call those again? The record, but there's a different term I was looking for. But it looks like you've been busy since after graduating and coming over.
I've always been busy. Even before I was a Muslim, I've been busy.
MashaAllah. So may Allah make it easy for us and accept from you and from all of us.
Ameen.
So you graduated from the Kulliyah of Sharia.
Yep.
Right? And so now you're back in your community, you're teaching. I remember seeing you, the first time I saw you was on a TikTok. Now it's a TikTok. It was an Instagram reel.
Allahu Akbar.
And so there was a couple of those popping up. And sometimes you see speakers that are either they're up and coming or they're actually well known. That you're just thinking to yourself, I'm never going to see this. I'm never going to meet this guy. And so that's how I saw it at the time. But subhanAllah, qadr of Allah, we're sitting here today, So alhamdulillah, that sounds great. Now I want to ask you, because there are a lot of controversies around the da'wah in terms of America, and there's different figures and there's different sort of camps, right? And we have to be honest, because we need to make sure that our da'wah is prioritized towards the things that are important in serving the Muslim communities here, and at the same time making sure that we have a good standing with non-Muslims, and that our job to them is call them to Islam, right? And the thirdly is not compromising our faith, right? And so I want to talk to you about the document here first. We're going to get to this, and then we're going to go to other subjects, is navigating differences, right? And there was a whole list of people who signed on to this document, and those who know, they know what it means and stands for. It's been explained. You can read it yourself. And so explain to us how this type of document gained a foothold for the Dawah in terms of the oppositions of different ideologies and those sort of things.
It's a great question. There's a lot to talk about. Okay. I want to just make a quick comment about social media and fame because you brought it up.
Fair enough.
I'm nobody, okay, first of all. And the fact that you first ran into me on an Instagram reel and thought I was somebody with whatever smoke and mirrors and cameras or whatever, it shows you something that's relevant to the Dawah. Okay, that's why I want people to understand, is that anybody can get in front of a camera, anybody can get big on TikTok, anybody can get big on Instagram. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about, how big you are, how much knowledge you have, how sincere you are, nothing. Okay, and that's funny because I deactivated all my social media. I'm not on Instagram anymore. I'm not on whatever, but I do stuff through institutes. So I'll do stuff for Yaqeen and I'll do stuff for Utica Masjid. Right? Because I don't want it to be about me. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that comes up in the Dawah that we're probably going to get around to talking about, right? Yes. And this is something that people were zigging and I was zagging, right? Not to pat myself on the back, but I had a lot of people tell me when I came back, you got to make sure, because people were coming at this angle of well, you're a Talib al-Ilm that's coming back, you got to make sure that you hedge your bets. Right. You got to make sure you stay independent. You got to make sure that you do your own YouTube channel, your own platform, not get taken over by the masjid, right? Common thing a lot of people heard. But I was concerned about me making myself my brand. You know what I'm saying? If my brand is Imam Town Fakini or whatever, okay, my name is on all the channels, my name is on whatever, how is that going to affect my sincerity when I'm wrong? When someone calls me out on something? That's true. Now I'm afraid of less clicks. Now if I'm not monetized, I'm afraid of less dollars. I'm afraid of the numbers game. Okay, and I didn't want to deal with any of that. That's true. So that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm not going to do anything by myself. I'm going to put myself under somebody else's banner. Is there a risk involved in that? Yes, there is. But there's also pros to it. Just like there's cons, there's pros, right? So when it comes to dealing with fame, dealing with followers, dealing with whatever, it is so much safer for you to be in a collective of people than it is for you to be by yourself. So much safer for you, right? And that's something that, talking about Dawah, everybody's got to understand, especially young guys going abroad, going overseas. You don't know who's going to pop in your inbox. You don't know who's going to start to whatever. You might start to feel a certain way. Shaitan preys on the lone sheep, right? And there's strength in numbers. That's why the Prophet ﷺ told us to stick to the jama'ah, right? There's strength in numbers. And so it doesn't mean that you have to sell, write your name on the bottom line and turn over all your intellectual property to a masjid or whatever. You don't have to do it that way. But to be in a collective, to run a Facebook page as a collective, to run an Instagram channel as a collective, or a TikTok channel as a collective, you can all keep each other in check. And now you have an incentive to accept the truth when it comes to you, to accept feedback, to accept criticism, etc., as long as it's in good spirit and it's fair and stuff like that. So I just wanted to real quick touch on that before getting to navigating differences, because I think it's a huge thing. And I fear for people who make them their own name, their brand, just because we're all human beings.
That's true.
We're all human beings, at the end of the day. And we all, are liable and susceptible and vulnerable to the same diseases of the heart that everybody else is. So we need to take, al-ihtiyat, right? We gotta take the means and go above and beyond to ensure, because the Dawah is bigger than you and me.
Absolutely.
And we do not want to taint the Dawah with our own individual shortcomings. We want to make sure that we're strong. We want to be together, and we want to make sure that it's like a fortress. We want our Dawah to be a fortress, okay? And this is one of the means to achieving that. Navigating differences. I wasn't someone who drafted the document. I was only a signatory. Fair. So I didn't have any sort of input. It was brought to me. Somebody reached out to me on WhatsApp, and they're like, hey, we're about to drop this document. Do you want to sign on? That's all it was put to me. I looked it over. I looked at who else was also going to sign on. And I said, yes, I'll sign this. The idea behind the document was that when somebody goes to school or somebody's at work, that you'll be able to take this piece of paper. It's not going to be a 20-page whatever. It's going to be 3-4 pages, something short. You can hand over to somebody and say, this is what my religion says, and that's it. You got to deal with it, like whatever. It's like, I'm not going to play your game or whatever. You don't have to get in it back and forth. You don't have to be a PhD in feminist theory. You just have to hand over this piece of paper, and it'll take care of you for the awam. It was really interesting to see sort of the chain, sort of the dominoes fall after that document dropped, and all the names that were on it too. It's an achievement if you go through all the names on that document, that you got all those names on one piece of paper. Because you find people that are actually like
all different camps.
All different camps, right? You know what I mean? So that was an impressive thing. And anybody who's tried to do anything in concert with other people realizes that when you try to include or you try to scale up the amount of people that can get onto something, that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost in what you can do and what you can say and what people are comfortable with doing or saying. Nonetheless, I think that it was a very important, very first step. And I think that it had some really important benefits and some clear shortcomings. When I look at sort of the reactions to the document after the fact, I think that probably the biggest shortcoming that the document had, and the framers of the document, was that they didn't communicate clearly enough what the document was for in the first place, right? If you go to the website, there isn't any intro page. There's no like paragraph on the top saying what I just told you, that this document is for a parent just came off the boat a year or two ago, has their kids in the public school, isn't ready to go to a town hall meeting or a school board meeting or whatever. You can give them this paper. It's got some big names on it. Hand it to your teacher, hand it to your school board or whatever. It didn't say that anywhere. That's true. I was able to pick that up from the internal conversations, but if you're the average person that goes on that website, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell that. And so what happened when people, they were disappointed. Some people, not all people. Some people were disappointed. One of the camps, we could say, of reactions is that this isn't strident enough. It's not confrontational enough. It's not like, I want that, hard dawah, like, hawk, give him the hawk, man, give him the hawk, man. Like, because, hey, just to be real, hey, listen, there's an emotional backlog that we have as a community. We've been getting this stuff rammed down our throats for years. And so some people, understandably, want to see, I don't want to say call for blood, but want to see, they want to see something serious. It's like, let's where's our Malcolm X moment, right? Where's our like unapologetic, put our foot down, like you guys just like go off and, whatever. So for those people who had those expectations of this document, it was disappointing. You know what I mean? Because they were looking at it and hoping that it was going to be that sort of thing when it was never meant to be that sort of thing in the first place. And if it was that sort of thing in the first place, you would have had a lot less people probably willing to sign off onto it, for better or for worse. I think that a hidden strength of the document that not enough people are talking about is who didn't sign it and who criticized it from the other side. You know what I'm saying? You had a lot of people, public Muslim personalities, even politicians, activists, lawyers, saying that this document's full of hatred and this document is like, and now the Muslims are working with the far right and the Muslims are... Talk about ripping the mask off. That document ripped the mask off a lot of people who had been given an undue platform and status in our community. And I would say that one of the things that maybe was unforeseen is that this document is a litmus test. Anybody who's criticizing this document from the left, all right, we got to reevaluate our relationship here. Should you be invited back to the big conferences? Should you be invited to speak at a masjid? Should you invite? If you're not down with this document, which is like base level, like 101, you know what I mean? Then I got doubts about you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is another sort of, I think, latent benefit of this document, that it should be used in this sort of way. I'm not sure if any follow-up questions.
I think it was great that you laid it out that way to show that there was a revelation on both spectrums. to where the group that was disappointed, even I know some people who signed it, and I know them personally. I think they're great teachers, leaders, imams, and shuyukh and mashayikh, and they said that they were a bit disappointed as well, right? And then we know the people that are, the reason why they were disappointed is because, you know, they felt like it should have been more. It should have been more. We don't have strong stances, right? And so one of the criticisms, and the thing about this platform, we don't focus necessarily on names, right? We want to talk about and dissect and elucidate on the ideas and the concepts. Is one of the criticisms was that, you know, it had something like basic, like, hey guys, it's haram, you know?
Right.
And it's kind of like, okay, and they were talking about how long they made this document. And it was like, well, we spent all this time to just talk about that. And then the first point that you brought up was good, that there was not really, there wasn't clarity on what the purpose of the document was.
Yeah.
And so for me even, and you didn't mention that, if I looked at it, I would just think this is kind of like a token sort of, you know, statement to make on behalf of a community.
Yeah.
This is what it seemed like.
Right.
Is it something that parents can take to teachers and, you know, that are teaching their kids? I don't know if people are really thinking that way, and so I do appreciate that perspective and that criticism. I think, though, although we can't do anything about what happened in the past, do you think this is something where we're forced to make like simple statements like this is haram because we showed up too late to the party? Because I feel like there's been like, we haven't really been active on that front because of the people that we've been working with, the Muslim community I've been working with, have been vocal on those points. And so we felt like maybe we shouldn't rock the boat.
Well, that's great. I got two things to further your argument, two additional criticisms that I'll jump on and agree with. And then one thing I'll push back on that I don't agree with. So it was too late, 100%. 10 years too late. Some people said that. Granted, 100%. But then my response to that is the fact that it's 10 years too late, is late better than never? Yes. Okay, but it was late. I mean, it happened. Whatever happened. Right. Back time. Right. We can debate about that. And you know, Mubin Vaid, actually one of the signatories, I think he released a, you know, he's got a Substack. I think it's called Occasional Reflections or something like that. He released one just yesterday, the day before, where he talks about how much utility there is in rehashing like what could have been done when and stuff like that. And he's pretty balanced, mashallah. Mubin's my guy, mashallah. So he says like, in some respect we do have to hold people accountable, but there does come a point where it becomes like, yo bro, we got to do stuff now. Like let's shore this up and let's get going. You know, so one thing, it was too late, 100%. Two, it's not enough. It can't be alone. There has to be more stuff. And that's where I think that the things that have unfolded since then with Montgomery County, Maryland, with, you know, outside of Seattle, Washington, with all these sorts of things, huge opportunity. And to see the way that the Navigating Differences document and some of the signatories were instrumental in what's going on in Maryland and now pushing it forward from there, that's a good sign, but we have to keep doing more, right? If let's just like look at this, let's imagine that it's 100 years from now and we're looking back in a history book at this time. We got an opportunity. We could tell a story where Navigating Differences was the start, or at least it was like a push for a lot of people to mainstream this thing and to do something serious. If that's going to be the actual history that unfolds, alhamdulillah, that's a victory.
Alhamdulillah, inshallah, hopefully.
If it's not that, if it doesn't happen that way, if it was like, they released this statement and then nothing really happened after that,
then
that's them alayna. Then exactly, then that's a problem. So I 100% agree with that criticism. It's too late and it's not enough. We need more. We need to put our foot down. We need to go on the offensive. We need to go on offense. Okay. The thing I'd push back against on is the idea that this document is only saying that it's haram. No, it doesn't. The main point of the document is pushing back against the single biggest discursive crime of the LGBTQ movement, which is trying to equate a moral disagreement with violence and intolerance and bigotry. Okay, that's where their whole game is that. Because if they can portray our teachings as hatred, hate speech, right, against freedom, against human rights, which they're trying to do, right, then that means that we're on the fast track to having masajid stripped of their tax-exempt status, like the Equality Act.
Rainbow flags.
Not being able to refuse to hire an out homosexual imam, right? Like this is the battleground, man. It's real. And if you look at the Equality Act, which was introduced to Congress 5 times, passed the House twice, right? Thankfully, it was shot down and killed in committee and stuff like that. But this is serious stuff that's going on, right? So all of this is predicated on this one discursive point, trying to collapse these two things. These two things are one's over here, moral opposition, and over here is violence. And they're trying to collapse all that space in between and saying that these two things are the same thing. And the single biggest point or most central point of the Navigating Differences document is that, nope, those things are not the same thing. Those things are separate. Okay? To morally disagree with whatever, our teachings, which morally disagree, is not equivalent to violence or hatred against you, which is different than just saying it's haram. It's true that the document says it's haram because, it was also trying to put a foot down to some leftist academics and stuff like that have drunk the Kool-Aid and was totally gone out of their minds, right? Which have become exposed again, I think, in an incontrovertible way after this document came out. But the biggest thing, then the biggest sort of, we could say target or objective, in my estimation, that it was trying to push back against is not letting these two things get collapsed, keeping these two things separate. Because we need to have that legally, that moral space of being able to morally disagree and not it being legally interpreted as hate speech or discrimination or like whatever. That's the game.
Okay. So do you think though, like I hear that point, but the reason I mentioned the whole aspect about just mentioning it's haram, first that's like a highlighted portion of it. But everything else, it seems like, I think most people would probably agree with that okay, this, the opinion doesn't equate to violence. The only people that give us a hard time about that are that group to begin with, right? But I feel like we wanted out of such collaboration a little bit more.
Sure. I hear you. And that's where I think it's like audience and objectives like matter, because like if we're hagging in the duksi or we're hagging in the masjid, it's like, what? Like this? But if you go to the school board, what happened in Montgomery County, Maryland? What did the chick say? The lady said that I'm surprised to see the Muslims on the same side as the white supremacists. And you got other people on the school board, elected positions, saying that this is hatred against trans kids. This is violence against trans kids. That's their whole argument.
And so I think this is a good transition point, is what to do about those figures that we've stayed silent about, that claim they're representing our communities. What do we do with them? Because they're state official, they're politicians, and I think even for the Dearborn, Dearborn, Michigan, when all of those parents came and there was a public outcry towards the schools that, hey, you guys are allowing and teaching these books to our children, or at least they have access to them. They shouldn't have access to books like this. This is pure pornography, right? And we had a quote-unquote Muslim politician that was pushed by the Muslim community, said, I'm siding with them over you. Stuff. How then, like because I feel like we have like this pacifist da'wah culture, more so in the West, but in Minnesota, the statement, Minnesota nice. And that also creeps in the da'wah as well. We need to have a staunch stance against people like that and say, hey, guess what? You're not, because if we don't, then what are we really standing on? What are we standing on?
I 100% agree with you. And I think that, I got a lot to say about this. I think that one thing that we suffer from is we suffer from putting a pastoral voice in the wrong audience or in the wrong sort of platform.
That's true.
I gave a talk in Brooklyn and Queens a couple weekends ago, and it was about LGBTQ, Qawm Lut, right? And the first thing I said was, if you came here for a pastoral discussion, you're in the wrong talk. If you came here with same-sex attraction and looking for some, like, you know, psychological sort of reroute or whatever, you're at the wrong talk. I got my knives out. It's like, we're talking about discourse, okay? And that's the thing. Like, we need to be able to differentiate audiences. This is a huge thing we struggle with. It's called context collapse, right? With social media, right? I go up in front of a bunch of brothers like yourselves who are tulab al-ilm. I'm going to teach a certain thing in a different way than if I'm teaching the kids, or if I'm at the elementary school, like with a general audience, some people are non-Muslims, or I do a dawah event over here, whatever. Every single different audience has to have a different approach.
That's true.
And so the pastoral voice is an important thing, but that's not the only voice. It can't be the only voice. If you come to my office, I'll give you pastoral voice all day. But when I'm up on a stage, I'm going at you, man. It's like, this is about, you know, in some places, this is life or death. You know, for real. And even more significant than life or death, this is about truth and falsehood.
Absolutely.
Right? Because some people want to turn Islam to some sort of Frankenstein rainbow Islam and have us believe in that rather than the Islam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to us, or that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam communicated to us. So we need to be discerning and we need to differentiate. And I'll definitely agree with that with the imams and the du'at and like whatever. We got to be smarter. We got to be smarter. You got to differentiate between a pastoral situation and a discursive situation. A situation where, you know, you gotta like help someone along, right? And like maybe, you know, all the stuff that you have to do sometimes in da'wah, or meet people where they at to bring them somewhere else. Differentiate between that situation and a situation where you got an audience, man.
Because everything's been mishmashed.
And someone's gonna take what you say and they're gonna say, well, so and so said it's okay, or so and so said this, or so and so. No. We gotta be more discerning and more smart than that. Exactly. You know, so that's a huge thing when it comes to da'wah. And when it comes to the individual people, subhanAllah, and the politicians and the activists, like I said, the mask is off, man. After navigating differences, the mask is off. I could have given you husn al-dhan until navigating differences is dropped. Now the mask is off. You showed your colors, right? And so if you're on the side of this issue, where you're on the rainbow side of this issue, the rainbow side of the street, we got to learn to not fall into the same mistake Musa alayhi salam made when he was called to jump into a fight. And whose side did he jump in on? He jumped into the side that his tribe was on, even though his tribe member was in the wrong. So that's the game that a lot of these politicians are playing. You know, like, or that's the game that the Muslim voters are playing. You see somebody up there, oh, they look like me. Oh, this is representation. Oh, this is breaking glass ceilings. No, it's not. This is colonial informant. This is the native informant. This is the colonized overseer. You know who Qarun was? Crazy. You know his relationship to Musa? First cousin, Shaq ibn Kathir, from Bani Israel. This is an old playbook, man. This is an old playbook. Fir'aun and the Fir'auns of the world always find the Qaruns. They're not going to do it themselves because they know people think tribalistically. They're not going to take somebody from Fir'aun's tribe and make him the overseer over the Muslims. They're going to take one of y'all. They're going to take a Muslim, somebody who wears a hijab or somebody who says inshallah or whatever, and then he's going to make them your overseer. And them's going to be the wedge, and they're going to bring in the rainbow agenda and all this other stuff. We got to be smarter than that. We got to operate on principle. You look what happened in, what was it, Scotland, where you got one person who was, inshallah, who knows, a Muslim, versus somebody who was a Christian who actually stood up for her values. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
That's a shame.
We got to act on principle. We can't act off a tribe. We got to act on principle, and we got to send the message to the people who are in these positions of activism or leadership or whatever, that we're not going to fall for that anymore. We're not going to fall for that anymore. We're going to go with someone.
That's a dead approach.
It's a dead approach. It's not just dead. It's something that has hurt us and hurt us and hurt us. And like I said, the pastoral door is always open. You want to have office hours? You can come into my office hours. But when it's about in public and in front of the people and the community and the kids and what people are going to take as normal, we got to push back harder.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Allah says in the Quran, and who is better than the one who is calling to the way of his Lord and does the righteous deeds and says, I am from the Muslims, right? And so today's theme is about the da'wah in America. And so I don't want to just talk about, we're going to talk about like small issues and things and how to give da'wah practically. But I want to talk about the more controversial issues that the Muslim community is more paying attention to now. And we need to have some sort of answers and discussion about these things. And we need to have authentic discourse about this. That's real. Like, we can't be hiding behind, well, I like this guy, so I'm going to defend him. Right? That's not da'wah. That's not deen. And so we need to be honest, because at the end of the day, we're serving our community. But our service is going to be something that Allah is going to hold us accountable for on the Day of Judgment. And so today we have our Imam Tom. Alhamdulillah, we're having a great discourse and exchange about this. The next thing I want to talk about is Yaqeen Institute has put out, or I would say they have people, writers, that have submitted articles onto their website discussing certain issues. So mainly the whole issue of gay marriage and the practical benefits of siding with the LGBTQ community, and how the Muslims share something in common, which is that we don't want government to meddle in our relationship and who we marry and how we marry. And so that's where the writer was coming from. And so I want to talk about how efforts like this at the time may have seemed intellectual, but how it has caused some harm towards the da'wah.
Definitely. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu rasulillah. That paper's not still up, correct? That paper's gone.
No, I think it's taken down.
Yeah, it's been taken down.
But people remember it.
Oh, definitely.
Stuff like that. It was
sure.
long enough.
No, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And the paper that replaced it is Dr. Sharif Dubgi's paper on LGBTQ and the discourse and stuff like that. So the reason I highlight that is because just like people can change, organizations can change.
That's true.
Right. And let's see, I've been working full time for Yaqeen Institute since March 1st. Okay. They first approached me September, October last year.
Could you just remind us what your position is again?
Yeah, so they created a new department for me. I'm the research director of Islam and Society. Okay. And that means that my business and my job is to look at contemporary ideologies and break them down and dismantle them and show the supremacy of Islam. So that's another thing that demonstrates, I think, the direction that it's headed in and things are headed in. Now, I'm somebody, some people are like, it's like, oh man, it's like, Imam Tom sold out, Imam Tom like whatever. I heard it. I heard you talking. No, not you. I'm just saying like out there, but we've only met like for the last 30 or 60 minutes, but do I seem like a person that's going to mince my words?
No.
I'm not a person that minces my words. Alhamdulillah.
Good.
So I go wherever I feel empowered to speak, and Allah's earth is vast. And if someone tries to shut me up, I'll keep moving.
No.
Right?
No.
So it wasn't like, someone held a gun to my head and said, well, you got to come over to the rainbow discourse and stuff like that. Or I just like cashed in or something. I don't know what people have in their imaginations. They invited me to come to their organizational retreat in the fall of last year. And I said, let me go and check it out. And so I met people in person and I asked hard questions. And I said, where are we going? What's the whatever? And I was very impressed, to be honest. I saw people who are willing to take advice. I saw people who are willing to change, and people who are willing to empower other people to do things differently. And they put their money where their mouth is when it came to that. Because they brought in a lot of people since 2021, around there, 2020, 2021, to make those sorts of changes. Okay, and that's not getting rid of all the khair that they've done in the past. Everybody knows, they've done khair. Fair. But when it comes to some things like that, Now, what made things like that possible? That LGBTQ paper that you're referring to, the old one that got taken down, that a lot of people, who write, they write for secular journals, secular academic journals. All right, and their training is in the secular academy.
Fair.
Now, if your training is in the secular academy, what are you trained to do? You're trained to make things complicated as opposed to simplify things.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trained to put everything out on the table and then just kind of like walk away and leave the reader like whatever, as opposed to being like, yo, this is the truth and this is what we got to do and this is what, right? So what you had before, Yaqeen Institute, the sort of understanding of what its mission was or identity was, they call themselves like a think tank with a megaphone, right? So it was like this idea about a platform with a multitude of voices, basically people who are able to express sort of multitude opinions on a singular thing. Now, what ended up happening is that it's almost like a self-selecting process. Who are the people who are going to step up and step forward to write? A lot of folks who have a very secular academic background and might be, I don't know, let's say lean towards certain opinions.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Credit to where credit is due. At a certain point, they realized, wait a second, this isn't having the results that we wanted to have. And this is causing some serious liabilities. What are the changes that we need to make in this enormous organization that grew exponentially in a few short years in order to turn around this behemoth of a ship?
That's true.
And so they brought in people like Dr. Waymer Anjum and people like Tahir Y and people like Mohammed Shanau and people like Uthman Omerji and whatever, to try to, in addition to other people, there's a lot of people who do good work there, in order to rectify from the back, from the vision, from the mission statement. And that's where it came to be like, well, what are we doing? What do we want to be doing?
I see.
Do we want to just kind of like have this like presentation of different opinions and not sort of take a stance? No, the decision was we want to actually leave people. They realized, I think, that even though the name was Yaqeen, that methodology was actually undermining Yaqeen. It was undermining certainty. So that it has to be actually Yaqeen oriented, that the person should walk away from every paper that they read with more certainty in Islam and Islam supremacy and like all this other stuff. And so now it's about trying to turn around a ship, right? And that thing takes time to turn around.
So I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good.
But Jazakallah khairan. I think this is important to know this background. You can guess by reading those articles that these people were secular minded. The big question was just, how is Yaqeen allowing this to happen? Because the gay marriage one was one paper. The other paper I remember was the evolution. Right? And so when you look at these people, these individuals and their background and their Facebook and their personal lives, and it's like contradicting, sometimes even diametrically opposing Islam. And so this was a big concerning thing. So first we answered the part from the organizational perspective and how the rectification is working, which is good. Then I want to talk about the impact that had on where we are now.
No, definitely.
Because if you can imagine, someone who sees that is looking at that paper and like, wow, who's the director again? Him. Okay.
Right.
And so if people can come and put narratives together, I mean, they'll be successful in doing so, whatever they want to say, right? And sometimes they have points. Sometimes it goes overboard, their criticism, right? And so these are things that the Muslim community has to take in lifetime. And so it's like, what's going on? I always thought that, we didn't come from apes and primates. Why is Yaqeen, so these things are concerning, right? So how is the impact on the community going? First, how has it impacted the community? And what are the efforts, if you know any, from the organizational perspective to reverse those in the community? Definitely.
Well, I've definitely seen commentary, I think, on both sides of extremes. Like, I remember somebody like leaving a comment on our channel. It's like, Yaqeen Institute ruined like a whole generation of Muslims. Like, akhi, I was like found in 2016. How does that math add up? Like, that just don't make no sense. It's like, so, okay, that's like mubalagha. That's a little extreme. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, you can't have a silo mentality where you only listen to the praise and like, oh, everything's so good and whatever. So it's got to be somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
And since I've joined up, I've been very pleased with people being like, we don't care who says the criticism. If it's valid criticism, we want to take it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm very new, so if it was always that way, I don't know. But it's that way now, alhamdulillah. And so when it comes to undoing things that were done, it's kind of like it's a difficult thing because, like you said, things are happening in real time. So we got two fronts, right? On one front, we're still responding to things.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So it's like my 40+ hour work week, much more than 40 hours, but it's like, I got things to write. I got podcasts, and I don't know if you've seen the Dogma Disrupted podcast on Yaqeen Institute.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Check it out, right? So that's a perfect
Mashallah.
Indication of like where we're going and where we're headed, and like that's like totally green lighted. Like nobody's like, oh my God, what's he gonna say now? I'm nervous. Like this, like totally everybody's behind that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like so, like that's where we're going and that's where we're at. Now, while I line up guests and write the scripts or like the outlines for those episodes and my own papers. I got a paper on perennialism coming out. I got to do a paper on feminism before the year is over.
Yeah.
Like I got my own workload. At the same time, I got to go back in the past and look at the stuff. And some of the stuff was like, okay, let's take that down or like whatever. Or this one, we got to flag it for like review and like for whatever. So I also have to go through those things. It just becomes a bandwidth issue at some point. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot to get through. And everything's so hot right now when it comes to the trans stuff and the school year. It's like, it's a judgment call.
Nah.
It's a judgment call for like how much my energy needs to be going into producing new stuff. Just like let's go. We got to respond to. All right, school year's coming up. It's August, it's almost September.
Yeah.
We got an episode about to drop.
Yeah.
The next episode for Dogma Disrupted is with Coalition of Virtue from Montgomery County. So it's going to be, it's hot. And there's other stuff like that, that it's like, there is a news cycle. That's like, we got to be positioned, 2024, election year. Like, we got to be ready to go, like, with these sort of things.
Yes.
And when we get a second to breathe, look back and be like, yo, that's messed up. That needs to be taken down. Or we need to, like, redo this or whatever. And some of those things have to do with papers. Other of those things have to do with even affiliations. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, there were, we don't have a board of advisors anymore. Right? Like when I came in, there was something on the website. And even now on the website, there's some people have profiles on the website. It's like, you ask questions, like, well, what's the last thing this person did for the Institute? Like, it wasn't 3, 4, 5 years ago. So why are they still on the website?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just about bandwidth. Sometimes it's about, everybody's got their task to do. Who's going to get around to doing that? Now, when it comes to undoing that, I mean, one of the things I think I'm super excited about, shout out to my bro Hamim in the curriculum department, Yaqeen. That guy is fire. And we recently, this summer, released an LGBTQ or anti-LGBTQ curriculum, right? So now it's about making those things into templates, getting them into Islamic schools, getting them into, into MSAs, getting them onto the ground, into people's hands. And I think going forward, this will be a huge area where we can grow, where we got to try to take all the good stuff that we do in Dogma Disrupted and all the like papers that are coming out and stuff like that, and then we got to like squeeze it to make juice. You know what I mean? We got to find how to repackage that into shorts for TikTok. Right. We got to repackage that into curriculum for schools. We got to make sure that we hit the ground. And I'm optimistic. You know what I mean? It's like, and I came in with a very open mind. I'm very optimistic and very happy to see where things are going. There's a lot of work to do.
May Allah bring a lot
of work to do. But the potential is amazing. And I think that if we keep on going hard and we scoop up some more people to help us, I'm trying to recruit some people. Once we figure out we're revamping our whole fellows program and what that means, what does it mean to be a fellow? Like, it's got to have rules. It's got to have like expiration, because that was standards, a problem. Standards, because a lot of times, you don't realize, it's like internet is like smoke and mirrors. You know what I mean? Just like the first point that we made, right? You see a website, it's slick. You see the media, like the social media, it's slick, and you think like this organization is just totally on top of everything it does. But you don't see the inner workings of the organization. You don't see all the things that fall through the cracks and the things that get left up on the website that people forgot about, that like nobody like remembered to take down or like what. But that stuff happens every organization. That's true. Right? So the curriculum development is a huge thing. Integrating the social media aspect with the research aspect is a huge thing. And the more we get it I don't want to say like under supervision of research, but like just better integrated, so that we're taking something top down. We got a research paper, like Dr. Sharif's research paper, and then it becomes a podcast, and then it becomes a live stream, and then it becomes a short for TikTok. Then we're going to really be rolling, and we're going to be having a lot more reach and a lot more impact. And then I think, honestly, given that where we're going, I think that the work that we're doing is gonna more than make up. It's inshallah. It's gonna more than make up for anything that was a regrettable action or thing that happened in the past.
And this is something we always ask for all of our institutions. We ask Allah to rectify their errors and mistakes, and to bring about them some real change, right? And to make them forces of change and transformation for the community. Yeah. And this is what we want as Muslims, because at the end of the day, we have Muslims that are in the society, in schools. We have children, brothers, sisters, right? And so they have to deal with these issues that when we speak about them, it may have an impact on them in their daily life. And so it calls us to be more responsible.
Yep.
Right. And so the last point on this issue I want to talk about, and since we're being frank, I'm going to use this opportunity. So there is the organization that is probably in opposition, I would say, to Yaqeen, which is Muslim Skeptic.
Okay.
Now, I'll be honest with you. I think that Muslim Skeptic does a lot of good work in terms of highlighting big problems within Muslim communities and organizations, and things that are working against us. They're obstacles for progression of our Islam. And I just want to ask you first, do you think that brother has some good points or something?
Of course. Listen, man. Sheikh Abdullah Shinqiti in Medina, he used to tell us all the time, Al-haq muwazza'un bainakum. Right? Truth is dispersed among you. No single individual among us has a monopoly on the truth.
Yes.
And no single individual among us has like 0% truth. Okay? Every single person has something to contribute.
Okay.
Every single person has good points. And actually, I don't consume a lot of social media or like stuff because I just don't have time. But some of the stuff that I've seen, like I saw one debate with like one of these Harvard academics or whatever. These guys are way out there.
I think I saw.
I had a comment in there. I said, "Yo, this is great. This is great. I'm willing. Yo, man, let's all just come together and work. It's got to be about the ummah, man. Yeah. It's got to be about the dawah. It's not about me. It's not about you.
Personalities, yeah.
It's not about personalities. It's not about beef. I got no beef with anybody. It's about the dawah.
But you got to have beef against shaitan in this ODI.
Yeah, of course, man. Definitely. But it's like if you're a Muslim and you do some good work, it's like even like I could say in some situations I think there's too much friendly fire going on. Sometimes like I think that our energy is misspent.
That's true.
And our priority is a little muzdawij, our priority is a little like whack. Right? I think that some people for example, come after Omar Suleiman or some people with the amount of energy that these Harvard academics deserve. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Because la yastawi. It's like those two things aren't the same to me. It's like if you got like a Sunni practicing Muslim that does a lot of khair and they've got some mistakes and they need some nasiha and whatever, okay, that's everybody, first of all. But if you got people that are trying to change the deen in an obvious way, that's different, man. We gotta discern, and we gotta have like priorities. You know what I mean? And I really, I'm afraid that we're not going to be able to come together on the work that matters. That's my one concern. And why? Taking down polemics is important, but building something constructive is also very important.
That's true.
Right? And so I'm concerned that if our da'wah is too polemical and that it's only about taking down this and taking down that, well, if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we need to be just a little bit more, and I know this word, it becomes misused, but like nuanced. Yeah. Yes, we need to have different tools for different situations.
That's true.
Right? If you see someone that's your brother that's got mostly good, but they got some stuff, right. You approach that person differently. than somebody that's like way out there. They're a hadith denier, or they want to reform the Sharia or something, like stuff that's like way out there. You know, it's like that person needs a different pair of gloves.
That's true.
When you talk to that person than this other person. You know what I mean? So I would hope that we were able to achieve that level of differentiation and discernment. And I ultimately think that if everybody can focus on what can we come together and work for, you know, that's what it's got to be. Because listen, here's the thing. You think these kuffar care about this stuff between us?
No,
they don't. They don't. They'll wipe us all out if they could, or wipe our Islam out.
That's true.
So it's all got to be put in perspective. You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes there's bigger fish to fry, and we need to have a priority list. Who's the biggest fish to fry?
For sure, there's bigger fish to fry, and I think even amongst the du'at, you know, we have some of the brothers. You know, they're on the same manhaj, same maslak, everything. Unfortunately, it's just. I mean, if you wanted to say like make a critique about somebody one time, but if you're gonna do it for the whole month, you know, just whatever this guy's doing, you're just stocking up.
And again, the monetization, the first thing we said, man, it's like I fear for people's sincerity, just like I fear for my own sincerity. If you got your face on it and you're the face of a thing and you're monetized and you're getting like whatever, you got to take the asbab, man. You got to take the means. Like how, because, you know, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the end of Surah Al-Kahf? The biggest loser on the day of judgment is the person who thinks that they were doing good, right? Yeah. So, bro, that could be you, that could be me, that could be any of us. We could be tricking ourselves, deluding ourselves, thinking that we're lying, you know, beating our chest, defending Islam. And really, honestly, we fell into something. Yeah. Shaitan doesn't care which extreme he brings you down into, as long as he brings you down into some extreme. Absolutely. So, you know, there's different methods. We talk about being collective or whatever in order to hopefully, you know, having scholars, having accountability, whatever, you know, but we got to be about us. Absolutely. You know, the dawah is bigger than any single one of us. Absolutely. And that's why, like I said, I don't have beef with anybody. I'm ready to bury the hatchet with anybody. Like we're a dawah, we're team ummah, we're team us. And we're all just about trying to collaborate. You know, that's why people get confused. They look at like the people I talk to and like whatever, even on Utica Masjid channel, whatever. And it's like, oh, what's his manhaj? Oh, what's his aqidah? Whatever. It's like, bro, we're team us, man. We're team ummah. It's like if you're down the ride and we're looking to build a dawah in the ummah, let's go. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything I say.
Yeah, I think here in America, the dawah is a bit different. For the most part, it's like the struggle the Muslim community has is with iman and kufr. Elsewhere, you go to UK and Birmingham and all those places, it's like bid'ah and you know what I'm saying? Right. But here, we have a problem where sometimes we don't know how to apply properly.
Yes.
You know, these sort of efforts. And so it's like talking to somebody about, hey, are you doing the sunnah prayers like the guys are praying 5 times a day? Right.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So it's like try leaving out the sunnah, okay, but they're not doing the wajib.
Yep.
And so that's where we got to start with first. That's square one. What would you say? I would say this is, we're wrapping up here. Give the viewers some advice. What was your last advice you would give to everyone before we close it off?
You're only going to go as far as your sincerity will take you. Best. No matter how much you study, no matter how much you know, no matter how much work you do. If you're not sincere, it's going to be against you on the day of judgment. It's not going to be for you. You're only going to go so far as your sincerity will take you. So the way that you take care of your safe or your credit card or your car, you lock it up when you go out, take care of your sincerity even more than that. Most precious thing that you have.
Allahu Akbar. And I think that's all for what we have today, unless you want to add another tadmid. Okay. This is, you know, Imam Tom, he has visited us here in Minnesota, alhamdulillah. And I think we had a very successful and productive discussion. And then also at the same time, we got to know each other a little bit more, better. And so we hope to have you again for the next time. You know, everything that you said, I think, you know, it's very reasonable. And when you have discussions like this, you can clear up a lot of fog and misconceptions.
Face to face, man.
Face to face.
Yo,
right?
online ain't all that. We got to be face to face.
We can't be, you know, getting in fights though, face to face.
We've
seen some things happen. But anyway, that's Allah, at-tawfiq wa sadat. Again, our Deen Love viewers, write down comments below, like the video, share, and subscribe. And again, we hope that we're all doing this for the sake of Allah at the end of the day. May Allah accept from us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.